an AI classroom update, from hero to zero, and a call to prayer, coming up straight ahead of you on the Use Your Head podcast. Welcome to this edition, the fourth episode of season number 2 of the Use Your Head podcast. My name is John McClain. Delighted to be with you for 30 minutes of thinking, using the power of the human ability to reason, to sort through a few issues of the day. Got 3 of them for you today. We'll spend about 10 minutes apiece on each one and encourage you to use your head. My email address is john@useyourheadpodcast.com. That's john@useyourheadpodcast.com. Anything goes there. If you have a show suggestion, a topic, a story you found you want to send along, if you'd like to take issue with something I said or something I did or whatever, I'd love to hear from you. john@useyourheadpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening wherever you are around the world. We are available pretty much everywhere on almost every platform, at least that I know about. My hosting service does a wonderful job of spreading us around. So as soon as I upload it, within an hour or so, it's all over the world on all the platforms. I thank you for joining us today and encourage you to tell a friend and leave us a rating if you would be so kind on whatever platform you listen on. We'd love to hear what you think, and I'd love to have 5 stars, 4 if you can. If you're going to go 3 or less, well, you know what? Go ahead and put those up there too. Why not? It's all one big happy family. And without further ado, let's dive right into topic number 1. Yes, we said it before. We have an AI classroom update. Now, if you're somewhat new to this podcast or the one that I did before, which is known as the Audiobook Trail, by the way, that podcast is still out there. I've decided to go ahead and keep paying for it to stay out there because people are actually still discovering it. We're not adding any more to the Audiobook Trail podcast, but it's out there if you would like to check it out. And it goes into some of my experiences and thoughts around my career as an audiobook narrator. So if you'd like to check that out, just look for Audiobook Trail, and you'll find that we're now doing the Use Your Head podcast. And all that to say, if you followed me for a while, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence and what it's doing to change the culture, both good and bad and bad. I'm not a fan for the most part. However, I try to keep an open mind about it and look at things, again, using my head to its fullest capacity to try to figure out, just like you are, what it all means. I found an article from K-12 Dive, K12Dive.com. This is a website for educators. Duh, right? Pretty interesting. This is an article by Brianna Mendez Padilla entitled, "With More Schools Using AI, How Can Schools Promote Academic Integrity?" Well, that obviously caught my eye because that's a great question, a big question that we're going to have to answer as parents, as students, as educators, as citizens of the world who are concerned about our future generations. What does it all mean? Well, here's what the article says. Along with the rise in development and availability of artificial intelligence tools has come increasing concern about their role in the classroom and the impact on student cheating behaviors. Prohibiting the use of AI will likely be ineffective, says Jason Stevens, a professor of arts and education at the University of Auckland in New Zealand. Instead, he suggested teachers promote transparency and prepare students to use the tools responsibly. According to a recent study from the Pew Research Center, the number of teens who used ChatGPT for schoolwork doubled between 2023 and 2024, as students' awareness of the popular AI tool also increased. AI has made it all the more easier to cheat well, and to do so in a way that's very difficult to detect, said Stevens, who is also vice president for research at the nonprofit International Center for Academic Integrity. But the emergence of AI doesn't really change the challenges of moral or ethical functioning. When students engage in cheating, they're undermining not only their intellectual growth, but also their social and moral growth, Stevens said. But while unethical, he said, academic dishonesty is also natural and normal, which is why it is an educator's role to create, quote, a culture of integrity, unquote, to dissuade students from engaging in it. Stevens said students are more likely to cheat if they see it as just against school rules. On the other hand, they are less likely to cheat if they understand the moral principles at play. He suggested educators talk to students about the impact cheating has, not just on them, but on others. Educators can explain how cheating is dishonest, gives students an unfair advantage, and misrepresents their knowledge. In the same vein, Stevens recommended that educators also talk to students about the psychology of cheating and the tendency to rationalize such actions, which helps them recognize these patterns within themselves and how to address them. All right, there's a little more here. We're going to stop right there because this is a big chunk to talk about here. I have to confess before I get into my use your head notes here on my sheet. I was stunned when I read this, and in a good way for the most part. You know, we've talked about AI and how, look, the genie's out of the bottle. I mean, that's true. Look, you could make AI against the law tomorrow, and it's never going away. All right, it is ingrained in our culture at all levels. It's growing every day, and since it's generative, it's growing on its own every day. So it's here to stay. So we, as culture and society, and again, this is in New Zealand, so different hemisphere, different culture, same language, thankfully. But it's a different. We have to decide how we're going to deal with it. And in the vein of education, it's a pretty big decision because yes, you can ask ChatGPT to write a paper for you, and it'll do it. And I loved his. What did he say? It's easier to cheat and to cheat well, which I thought was interesting, an interesting phrase. But I know what he means. He's saying, look, not only can you cheat with this stuff, you can do it really, really well. I mean, ChatGPT will not only write a paper for you, it'll write a good one, right? And so educators now find themselves having to detect whether a student has cheated. How they're doing that, I'm assuming somebody's writing software to help them do that. In any event, I was surprised by the take on this article. I really, really was. And I'll tell you why. When I used my head, my first thought was, now wait just a minute, Professor Stevens, wait just a minute. Are you daring to suggest that teaching morals is important? I thought that was horse and buggy thinking. Not that I'm complaining. This is a wonderful suggestion, Professor Stevens. Wonderful. I'm with you 100%. Imagine telling kids from a young age that despite how easy it is to, quote, cheat well, you shouldn't do it simply because it is wrong. It is wrong to cheat. Not trying to justify it, not saying, well, it's the 21st century. Things are different now. You old folks don't understand. You don't have the right to determine what's moral for me. The old moral relativity argument, which is as stale as moldy bread. It's not any more true today than it was when it first came up, whenever it came up. This guy, and again, I'd hug him if he was standing next to me. I'm so refreshed by a professor who's teaching educators, right? And he's a professor of arts and education at a major university in New Zealand. And he is publicly saying, look, the way that we're going to get through this AI revolution in the world, and specifically in his world of education, is through morals. You got to teach kids that you don't cheat because it's wrong. And I have to tell you, I don't know how long it's been since I've seen that kind of ethic come out. I mean, now, look, if you're a teacher and you're saying, well, I've been saying that look, I don't know you. And I'm sure, but what I'm seeing, especially in the press, all right, is the exact opposite. Anytime morals or right and wrong comes up, it's like, well, you know, that's not even our bailiwick. That's for mom and dad, and we'd really rather mom and dad stay out of it. So let's not talk about moral teaching. This guy is saying, look, you're not going to stop kids from using AI, and he's suggesting, at least what I'm reading into this, he's suggesting that maybe we shouldn't, because it is, if used responsibly, a very powerful tool for learning. I mean, it's gonna allow humanity to learn things faster and discover things quicker and think of things that maybe we wouldn't have already thought about if we use it responsibly. And this is a very thin line to walk. I get it. Well, you sound like you're pro AI now. No, listen, I wish it was not around, but it is, and I'm a realist, and so we have to learn how to deal with it. Teaching kids that you don't cheat because it's wrong. And if you do that from a young age, I don't see how that could be a bad thing. Because then they're not going to cheat on their taxes. Why? Because it's wrong. I think this is great. Now, granted, this is not in the U.S. This is in New Zealand. But maybe, just maybe, morality will catch on in our schools here. Just maybe. Stranger things have happened. It's the Use Your Head podcast. My name's John, and I am grateful to you for your valuable half hour that you're spending together as we work together to use our heads. Quick reminder, by the way, as I analyze these things, I'm just reading from my notes. I have an actual piece of paper, and when I saw these stories, I wrote down my notes as I used my head. I'm not suggesting that I'm right. I'm not suggesting that I know everything, and I certainly don't have a stupid crystal ball. I'm suggesting that you can do the same thing. If you read a story or see something on the TV or whatever, however you consume your news and find out what's going on in the world, or even if someone at the airport says something to you, and that little voice inside goes, that don't figure out right. That doesn't make any sense. This is a great time to use your head. Maybe take pen in hand, jot down a few notes, think about it, wrestle with it. You'll be amazed at what your mind is capable of. Topic number 2, from hero to zero. From newsnationnow.com, targeted Tesla attacks continue amid outrage at Elon Musk, by Nancy Liu. Here's what Nancy says. Some of Elon Musk's detractors have made their feelings known in recent weeks, with the latest critic using a gun to show their displeasure with the Tesla CEO. Some Tesla showrooms, dealerships, and charging stations have been set on fire or vandalized in other ways, ostensibly in protest of Musk's role with the Trump administration. The latest violence occurred in Tigard, Oregon, just outside Portland, where police are investigating vandalism involving gunfire. On Wednesday, at least 7 bullets tore into the dealership in an overnight attack, damaging 3 cars and shattering windows. No one was injured, and so far, there have been no arrests. In another incident, police have a 41-year-old man in custody in Oregon after he allegedly targeted a dealership in Salem, causing major damage with Molotov cocktails in January and then opening fire with an AR-15 style rifle last month. Oregon has been a hotbed for protests against Musk and Tesla, and a growing grassroots movement called Tesla Takedown, which encourages people to stop Musk now by selling their Teslas, among other actions. Despite his opposition to Musk, one protester told us that he disagrees with any violent protests. We who served in the military said to give you that right to protest, but not to up and destroy and shoot and burn, and wherever, no go, he said. All right, we'll stop right there. So, fiery violence in Oregon. Shocking. I mean, remember, it wasn't that long ago that Antifa was misbehaving up there and burning and looting and, all in the name, of course, of maintaining a good and fair society, right? That's all these people really want. I'm also not surprised that as soon as you dare, and by you, I mean Elon Musk, as soon as you dare take a stance contrary to the status quo, in this case, decades of out of control, unchecked, unaccountable, and very often corrupt, wasteful government spending, they'll come for you. I mean, Elon Musk, how long ago was it that he was a hero to these very same folks? The people that, electric cars, yes, Finally, we can destroy big oil and save the planet with electric cars, and they're so cool. And, if you can afford it, you must drive a Tesla if you love the planet. And we got to spend all this money and get these charging stations everywhere. Now they're shooting them up with, oh, the irony, AR-15s. If I wasn't reading it, I couldn't believe it. There's video, by the way, on the web of this, so I know it happened. And by the way, because a lot of these signs, and signs are a sight gag, but I'll tell you, a lot of these signs that a lot of these people that are picketing these dealerships are carrying say, billionaires are destroying us. These are two billionaire buddies working together to destroy the rest of us. This has nothing to do with Elon Musk being a billionaire. Nothing. Want proof? I don't see any of these people, or anyone for that matter, throwing Molotov cocktails through Bill Gates' window. George Soros's window either. Or any other number of worldwide billionaires who are on the side of the political left. That's what this is about. What is happening is as we find billions and billions and billions of dollars that are literally being flushed down the government toilet, and I'm sure some of it's not outright overt corruption. Some of it is oversight. Some of it is the result of a government being so big that things are getting lost in the shuffle. And we're not talking about coins in the couch here. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars being lost and wasted by a government who has to borrow from our enemies to pay our bills. I think, even though it's painful to some, and look, if there are people that are losing their jobs, people that have government jobs that are losing their jobs, and some of these people are good, honest, hardworking folks that are going in and trying to make a difference and bringing home a check to feed their family. I feel bad for those folks. On the other hand, those folks are talented, they have a work ethic, and they can find other work. The people that are not even showing up and getting a check and exploiting our government, and again, look, I remember, governments don't produce anything. They only consume. All right. They consume what they're given or what they take. The money is ours. Those of us that work and do produce things, we give a cut to the government. And it's really, really infuriating when we find out how badly it's being wasted. And again, I don't know why anyone would be, and again, there are people that are losing their jobs, and I'm sorry for them. I fully expect that they'll be able to find other work because they're talented. All right. But why all the violence and hatred over someone that was a hero to them not long ago, billionaire and all? I mean, Musk has been a billionaire for a long time. Tesla's not new. Now, all of a sudden, he is being burned in effigy, essentially, and having his properties destroyed. And oh, by the way, protesters, use your head. The only people you're hurting are insurance companies when you do this. Of course, you don't like them either because they have a lot of money. Anyway, this has nothing to do with Musk being a millionaire. This is about a nerve being struck. Okay, there are people now that are saying we've had enough with these out of control deficits and the government whining about how they don't have enough money to take care of the basic needs of our people. We're not going to be able to fund Medicaid. We're not going to be able to. And what we're finding out is if we just took the billions that are being wasted, a lot of it, they don't even know where the money went. I mean, we have theories, right? I'm not going to accuse anyone because that's not nice, but it's not a stretch to think that this money has been, let's just say offshored somewhere. What could we do for our seniors, for those of us who are poor and need assistance with healthcare or milk or what have you, school lunches? How could we fund that stuff without having to borrow and pay interest to do it if we just take the money that's being wasted and put it to good use, to responsible use? What if the government became good stewards of Joe Sixpack's hard-earned tax money? What a world that would be. And yet, as people take steps to try to do this, and again, this is a massive, multi-trillion-dollar problem that is going to take a bit of time to solve. What if? What if they did? And why, by the way, is this a nerve that's causing so much angst and anger to the fact that people are taking rifles that they want to ban and using them to shoot up car dealerships? I use my head and things start to kind of take shape and make sense about what true motivations might be in some of these cases. I don't think that these people are truly motivated by the environment. It doesn't seem to be the motivation here. Does it? Interesting stuff. Keep an eye on this. It's not, listen, no matter what your stance, response to being angry, burning and, looting and raping and pillaging is not the way to go. But in any case, Musk has a target on his back now. Well, thank you for joining us on the Use Your Head podcast. Once again, if you think I'm full of baloney, you can email me, john@useyourheadpodcast.com. Be nice, be civil. I try to be, but I'd love to know what you think. Am I all wet about this thing? Am I looking at it the wrong way? When you use your head, you come up with something quite different? I'd love to hear about it. Let me know. john@useyourheadpodcast.com. Topic number 3. This one, a lot of times on our podcast, the third topic is a little more serious. And in fact, really the middle one here was kind of serious. This is one that is a little different from what you might be used to if you've been with us for a while, but I just felt led that it's very, very important. I call it a call to prayer. I got an article from a bishop in my church who sent this out to a lot of us, all of us in the parish, actually. And the subject of his email was a call to prayer. And there was a link in there. And I clicked the link, and here's what came up. It's from a website called persecution.org. It is datelined the 10th, which was yesterday, and the location is Syria. Here's what it says. Sparked by a surprise attack on government troops late last week, Western Syria experienced a significant spate of violence over the weekend, leading to more than 1,000 deaths. The fighting is ongoing, with civilians, many of whom are Christians, reportedly representing the bulk of the fatalities. According to the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, about 750 civilians have been killed, compared to 125 members of government security forces and 150 opposition militants. The attack on government forces occurred in an Alawite majority area loyal to recently deposed dictator Bashar al-Assad, himself an Alawite. Now, if you're not into international news, Bashar al-Assad was the longtime brutal dictator of Syria. He was deposed by a group of Muslim we'll call them militants. I'm not sure exactly, what, but he was cast out. He's been exiled. And there's a new guy in power. And so this has caused an upheaval in the government in Syria, which is home to a great many Christians. The story goes on. Government forces have reportedly focused on retributions against civilians, killing whole families at a time, according to a UN statement. The killing of civilians in coastal areas in northwest Syria must cease, UN Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk said. Authorities in Damascus have denied direct responsibility, blaming unofficial militants fighting alongside government forces. While the veracity of this claim is uncertain, its basis is somewhat tenuous given that the government, as it is itself a militant group that came to power just 3 months ago with the support of a broad coalition of other militant groups. Last week's attack and the weekend violence that followed is the largest since Assad was deposed in December and presents a challenge for the new government led by Ahmed al-Sharaa. Assad's ruthless reign was marked by deep animosity between ethnic and religious groups in the country, spurred on by Assad himself as a means of extending his power. As al-Sharaa works to set up a new government in Assad's place, he faces the challenge of uniting these disparate groups. All right, we'll stop right there. There's a little more, but that's the gist of the story. So what you have is a government, country in the Middle East, Syria, been around a long, long time. Track your Bible. Syria's in there a lot. Run by Bashar al-Assad, who has a long record of human rights violations. And it says in this article, one of his techniques for increasing his power was the old divide and conquer game. All right, I'll get this group who really doesn't like this group anyway, and I'll fan the flames. And then I can come in and raise a heavier hand to, quote, keep the peace. All right, so this is what you do. You divide and conquer, and then it gives the leader more power, right? Because you people obviously can't handle it on your own, so I will come in and wield absolute power, okay? If this is sounding familiar, there are some political groups in this country that think this is kind of a cool way to get power. Anyway, won't go there, not the point. So he's ousted in December. Bashar's out. And this, I think he's a provisional president. This Ahmed al-Sharaa is trying to figure out how to, kind of restore order because it's out of control, as you might imagine. But look, I get if you're upset. There are a lot of people that thought, that thought Assad was a god, essentially. Certainly how he thought of himself. And they're pretty upset that he was ousted. And so they're, getting revenge. They're out there, with their rifles and they're getting revenge. But what's happening now where they're dragging people out of their homes? And again, I saw some video footage of some of this, the aftermath of some of this. Thankfully, it was pixeled out because it's bloody. To drag people out of their homes and execute them. The vast majority of these eyewitnesses said were shot at close range. They were executed. They were pulled out of their homes, shot in the face or in the back of the head or whatever. Great many of these are Christians. They're in their apartment buildings or in their homes, living a life in a violent place. And 1,000 of them were butchered. And it says 750 of them were civilians. That's a ballpark figure, but that's what they're thinking. And I my heart just breaks. I'll briefly mention to you, and it should be no surprise if you've been with me for a while. I'm a Christian, and I like to say I'm a Christian that's serious about it. All right, I'm not a Sunday to Sunday Christian. I am a daily and nightly Christian. I am attending seminary right now because I feel called to ministry. And so I'm learning a lot in postgraduate work, and I'm in this a lot. And as I see these things happening around the world, it's very easy to fall into what I'll call an eddy of despair. You feel yourself kind of swirling in this eddy because as a Christian, I believe, not just on paper, but in my heart, in the depth of my soul, I know that these people who are being dragged out of their homes are my brothers and sisters. Okay? Even if they're not Christians, they're my brothers and sisters. I live in a place where this kind of stuff just doesn't happen. Thank the Lord. But it's very easy to begin to feel despair and hopelessness and, yes, anger. And I'm so grateful that Bishop called us to prayer for this, because that's what we can do here. And it matters. It matters. The Lord doesn't like this stuff, when this violence happens, okay? And so I would encourage you to join me to pray, not just for these people, but there is persecution and genocide going on all around our world. And here in the US of A, we are insulated from a lot of it. I mean, we're getting stories here of Molotov cocktails in car dealerships. And not that that's not serious. But then you read a story like this and it puts things in perspective. By the way, if you haven't heard about this, it's no surprise. It's all over the press in Europe and in Asia and in the Middle East, of course. Not so in the United States, which I think is a bit interesting. I'm not ashamed to say, let us pray for all of these regions of the world where this terrible violence is going on. Thanks. And thank you for listening. That's all the time we have. We'll be back next week, God willing, for another 30 minutes of using the brains he gave us to unravel the complicated issues of the day on the Use Your Head podcast. I'm John McLean saying thanks and bye-bye.